Marlee?
Well, Gina, and then the obvious question becomes, since they were able to fly under the radar, what are the notions right now that there are other people out there or more arrests pending?
Well, the FBI is now slightly backtracking what they were saying all along yesterday, which is we think the coast is clear on this one. We don't anticipate any more arrests. Today, they said they are looking into who provided this couple with the guns because they didn't buy it themselves. How did they get these explosives? How did they learn to make all of this? I mean, does anybody just generally know how to make a bomb? No. So they had to learn this, military tactics, all the outfits and everything. Who are those connected to? But so far they said they have made no arrests.
Well, yes, because I'm sure there has to be some sort of map here that will lead them to exactly who all was involved in this. Gina, it's also fascinating that you were allowed into the apartment, that the media actually had that kind of access to look up close. Anything else you can tell us about what was seen in that apartment?
Well, we didn't have access to the garage because of all the explosive materials that were in there. That was a hazard zone. But basically what happened was the FBI cleared the area, locked it all up with plywood, and then the landlord came and said, I want to take a look at my property. He pried it open with a crowbar, and then as the media was outside, he said, yeah, you guys come on right in. And so it became a little bit of a free-for-all situation, and that had a lot of counterterrorism experts really getting upset. Like, what are they doing? Isn't this still something that they need to preserve? All those fingerprints now are tampered with. But the FBI today during their press conference was not concerned about it, and they said we did what we needed to do.
Wow, that is definitely interesting to hear that, because you're right. You would think that maybe they have some more that they'd want to look through there. Okay, Gina Kim, live in San Bernardino, thank you so much for all of your live coverage this week. And our live coverage of the California shooting continues here on 24 Hour News 8. Lester Holt will anchor live from San Bernardino for NBC Nightly News. That's at 6:30, right after News 8 at 6.
On the ground, field anchoring from storm-ravaged Portland tonight. Marlee, what are you seeing?
Oh, Brian and Sue, it is just amazing to watch all of the emergency crews out here right now, still trying to piece everything together. If you take a look far behind me, you can see where power crews are out here trying to restore power this way. But we did speak with the fire chief earlier, who said that a lot of the power is back up and running, but of course they do still have some spotty areas. Then if you look down, you can see where there's some caution tape that's put up around the buildings down that way, but really that caution tape is up all over this area. There isn't just one area that's blocked off, but several buildings that are blocked off. You can see this road has caution tape keeping people back as well, and a lot of that is because we're not sure if these buildings are stable enough yet. You can see this was the Rite Aid behind me right here, and that you can see the wall has actually been incredibly damaged. Just so much that we've been seeing out here. It's just amazing to hear some of these stories. I want to walk right now over to Ken Coker, because he actually has been speaking with people all day long as well, hearing just an incredible story of survival, Ken.
Yeah, Marlee, this is Chuck and Sue Burns. Now, they actually...
Now that really is an amazing story of survival. Ken, thank you for that story. And we have been telling you all day that there's been some sort of a controversy, if you could say, about whether or not this was actually a tornado or straight line winds that we've seen here. So I want to bring in Storm Team 8's meteorologist, Ellen Baca. I truly love hearing your assessment of all of this, especially with Storm Team 8's background and all of the experience that you guys have. You were able to walk around this area, take a look at some of the damage. Was this a tornado?
It's looking like a tornado. It's probably going to be coming down here shortly.
Okay, then we will definitely look for that. Meteorologist Ellen Baca, thank you so much for all of that insight. Of course, we have had reporters all over this area. 24 Hour News 8's Joe LaFergie was one of those very first on the scene. He has been able to see so much today. So, Joe, what are you seeing now?
It's probably going to be coming down here shortly.
Okay, then we will definitely look for that. Meteorologist Ellen Baca, thank you so much for all of that insight. Of course, we have had reporters all over this area. 24 Hour News 8's Joe LaFergie was one of those very first on the scene. He has been able to see so much today. So, Joe, what are you seeing now?
So it'll be a long night here in Portland. Back to you.
All right, Joe, and that is definitely what we've been hearing, is that it will be a long night. In fact, when we spoke with the police chief and fire chief earlier, just a few minutes ago, they said they expect to be out here for several more hours as the canine units are going in just to assess the damage and make sure that some of these buildings out here are stable. Now, earlier, we told you about the Goodwill and just how that building right now appears to be a total loss. There were actually employees and customers inside that store when this storm hit. So much damage as people watched the roof collapse. In fact, we spoke with a mother who had to shield her children from all of the damage.
It all really happened so fast that I don't know if I've quite processed it yet, but I know that we're all really lucky to be alive. It could have been a lot worse.
Can't even imagine what is going through so many minds out here today as we have listened to just story of survival after story. It really is incredible to hear so many people be able to tell those stories and explain how thankful they are that they are all right tonight. Brian and Sue.
If you're one of the millions expected to travel somewhere by air or car this week, but depending on where you go, it could be a slow go.
Oh, definitely. This weather we're seeing right now in West Michigan is actually stretching across the Midwest, creating a number of headaches for travelers. NBC's Wendy Wolfolk joins us now live from Chicago's O'Hare with the latest on what people are dealing with. Wendy?
To you.
All right, Wendy, definitely some things to think about. And, you know, I've had to deal with this. I'm sure you have too. But when you're dealing with these cancellations, a lot of people stress out about the costs of having to rebook. But I was just reading online about how some airlines are actually waiving those fees. Have you heard anything about that there with what travelers are having to pay?
Airlines are starting to waive the change fees, but they are not offering to monkey up for the cost to stay in hotels. As you can imagine, it is costly to stay over no matter where you are. And so we are seeing that the hotel over here at the airport is starting to fill up. And so it looks like the airport's going to have to put out some cots to accommodate these travelers at this point.
Of course, especially when you have that many cancellations. Thank you, Wendy. Well, if you are planning to travel, make sure you download our story. And Sue and Brian, you have to hear her story. Now, keep in mind, these are places that do not provide around-the-clock care that nursing homes do, but they house nearly just as many vulnerable people and are inspected at least yearly. There are nearly 1,000 of these homes scattered throughout your neighborhoods in West Michigan, including the home where a well-known community advocate lived her final days.
Leona Spencer grew up the youngest of 11 children, raised by a single mother after her father died.
Because she never wanted a child to grow up and not have like she did.
Leona became a community activist in Grand Rapids, dedicating her time, even in retirement, to helping disadvantaged kids and struggling families.
That was her role. She said, I never want anybody to feel that bad about something about being poor. I want them to feel that they deserve respect.
But Tony Spencer Beatty says that's not what her mother got in her final hours, dying on the cold floor of a home for the aged, begging staff to call her family.
And that's what she wanted. My mother wanted us at her death, and we weren't there.
2 days after her mother died, Tony received an anonymous letter.
You need to know the truth behind your mother's death.
Saying her mother complained of chest pains hours before she died, had begged for someone to call her daughters because no one was listening to her.
I could barely talk. All I could do was call my sister.
The anonymous writer says Leona may still be here today if the nurse would have taken her complaint seriously, but that the nurse didn't care and didn't even check on her.
And she dedicated her life to helping poor and disadvantaged people. And here she is, and she can't even die with dignity, and she can't even die with her family. I just don't understand it.
Has the staff done enough to fix the problems?
I believe they have.
Lee McLeod is the Vice President of Senior Living for Lutheran Social Services, the organization that owns the woods at Maple Creek, where Leona died.
They think it may have been able to be prevented.
all I can say to them is I'm very sorry for their loss, and anything that we identified as being a challenge for us or an issue, we have corrected.
State officials told me they investigated but wouldn't talk about specific cases. So Target 8 requested all state documents related to Leona's death, discovering Leona's doctor said her symptoms should have been reported immediately given her history of internal bleeding. While state investigators noted that it's not known if Leona's problems that night were related to her death, they did cite the home for not getting Leona appropriate care and not contacting her family. We also looked through the home's corrective action plan. Staff was retrained on when to call a resident's physician and family and what to do if they can't be reached.
If the event is so egregious and the negligence is there that the provider will not correct, then we will take the license away.
Leona's story isn't the only concerning case we came across. We pulled hundreds of inspection reports on other homes in Kent County and found several deaths led to violations.
And it's unfair to the people who are paying all this money for the loves of their life to be cared for, you know, and they're not. They're just not. It just makes me sick.
Several states issue fees and fines against adult foster care homes for violations, including Wisconsin, which has a $200 fee for follow-up inspections. North Carolina fines homes for significant violations or ones that aren't corrected. But the latest state audit in May noted Michigan doesn't assess fees, fines, or penalties for licensing violations.
And that's it. There's no fine. There's no, you know, nothing. I'd say that they do nothing to encourage these places to clean up their act.
We checked and the state has no plans to start issuing fees and fines. It already posts results of those inspections online so you can investigate homes for yourself. And we've made it even easier for you with a map in our online story showing all of the homes in Kent County and if they've had violations in the past year. It's common for people to think if a home is newer and looks nice, well, it's safe. Well, at 11, we'll show you why that's not always the case and what you really should be looking for. Sue? There's a lot of questions about recalls that drivers may not even know about. New tonight, Target 8 is showing you how you can find out if your car has an open recall. I took my phone into a parking lot and you won't believe how many cars I discovered with recalls the drivers were not aware of. Can I check and see if your car has a recall? I'm just curious.
It didn't take long.
Your license plate number. You have the 2002 Ford Windstar, right?
Mm-hmm. For Target 8 to track down a car with an open recall.
Did you know it?
No, I didn't.
It's safety recall. I mean, you got to have it done.
So you had no idea you had a safety recall?
I did not. Not until you just showed me that, I didn't.
In fact, in one grocery store parking lot in Grand Rapids, I used an app on my phone, uncovering several vehicles with open recalls, some dangerous, involving safety issues. David Flowers was glad we found him.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That could be life or death.
His Dodge Grand Caravan has a serious and potentially dangerous open recall. It could suddenly lose power steering, brake boost, and the airbags while he's driving.
I mean, that could be a life or death situation on the freeway, or I could be stranded somewhere. So yeah, I think that's very important.
All you need is a license plate number. Put that into the new My Carfax app and you can find out if your car has an open recall. In another parking lot, Target 8 plugged in roughly 100 license plates. Nearly a quarter of them had open recalls, and just about all of those were safety related.
You know, you hear about the Takata recall and you're thinking, well, is that my car?
Dangerous recalls are on a lot of minds, considering the recent airbag recall by Takata, the largest recall in U.S. history.
In the effort to improve vehicle and highway safety.
Today, the feds held a hearing pressing Takata for more information on the faulty airbags, frustrated that it's still unclear which vehicles need repairs. Meantime, Flowers plans to get the recall we alerted him to fixed right away.
Glad you showed me. Yeah, I'm calling my dealer tomorrow morning, so I'm glad you showed me.
So here's how it works. You can go to mycarfax.com or download this on your smartphone. I just clicked on add a car here. All it asks you for is the license plate or the VIN number. You can see this one right here has an open recall. If I click here, it shows me more about that recall. Also, if I need an oil change, a tire rotation, or even if I need to update my registration. All of that at mycarfax.com.